Today, we are honored to host another sporting creme de la creme, a trailblazer of motorsport, Tschops, Sipuka. Welcome on the Legends Kraal.
Thank you very much. I'm quite honored to be here.
I'm wearing Bafana Bafana today. You see, definitely they played their hearts out.
They
They
tried.
did us proud.
They tried like any other sporting man.
Yeah, it's another milestone, another victory for sport in South Africa.
Indeed. I mean, it comes in different forms and different shapes. As long as we still have a nation that has got hope and that will keep burning the torch.
But you've been doing something else totally different from what they've been doing. You've been on that side of the fast and the furious of motorsport. How did it begin?
Well, I think as a child, grew up in a village, a rural village in the Transkei, Kumbu to say the least. And just like any child, you know, you aspire to have a car or to be driving a car. And the latter years, then I had this buzz of course, we were watching TV and we were watching racing cars, the likes of your Ayrton Senna's internationally from a Formula One base. And in South Africa, I remember watching Terry Moss, Cyril van der Merwe, Tony Vianney's, the Mike Briggs, and many of those guys. And one guy that stood out for me was Terry Moss. And not knowing that later on in life our paths
Indoda sebofolo. Indoda sebofolo.
ndiye ndibhidwe sisiduko sakhe ke kuba ndithi xa ndimbuza uba isiduko sakho ngubani kanye Terry, hayi ndingudebeza. Ukhangela sikufutshane. Yeah, and I mean, growing up in a village, you don't have many dreams because your dreams are surrounded by the restrictions of what you see in your village.
Mountains,
Yes.
the rivers,
Absolutely.
the sheep, the cows,
The goats, the cattle,
goats, the cattle,
your
the
name,
ducks,
yeah,
all that stuff.
all that stuff. Different rhythm and pulse of life in a rural village as opposed to a city. And remember, back then, it was the Transkei and South Africa. So to get to places like your East Londons, you had to have a dome pass.
Yes.
But of course, if your parents carried that, you would automatically be also written into that dome pass to be able to cross the Kai with them. So watching TV at those years and watching racing, you just enjoyed the fact that there were a bunch of guys driving racing cars and giving it their hearts, taking each other out the more style. But it's quite interesting again to say later on in life our paths crossed.
You met.
We met. And
What goes around comes around.
You're never thinking about that as a child. You know, and as a child you come from a village where you wake up in the morning and you go and milk the cows, you feed the goats, you feed pigs, you feed everything that's an animal that requires to be fed, you feed. And then thereafter you prepare to go to school. And then after school you come back and you check the flock, and before the sun sets, you've got to make sure that all those sheep are all in the kraal. And if there's one that's missing, you need to go and look for it. So, and I think I was privileged in that my grandfather allowed me to steer a car at a very young age.
Wow.
But this was, of course, this happened in the farm rural areas, and that's where
That's the dead road.
those are dead roads. Yes. I think later on in life I only learned that they are labeled as access roads.
Wow. Yeah.
They're labeled as access roads, but that in its own honed my skill unbeknown, because most of the time in rural areas there's rain, and you used to, I would sit on his lap, and he would do all the,
Some potholes.
yeah, I mean,
You know,
you learn to miss
stones.
you learn to miss all those, because there's no rush,
Yes.
because it's not a tarred road, it's raggedy roads, so you learn to steer the vehicle in the right direction, how to miss this pothole, where to put the wheel when it's raining, so that you more or less can control the slide. And over years that developed where I could now reach the pedals. And strangely enough, I started driving a truck, because the truck is quite easy. I mean, a 4-ton truck is quite easy to drive, because the gearing is the gearing, the steering wheel is the steering wheel, the pedals are more closer to you because you're shorter. And from there it developed, I started driving a tractor and you name it. And then the later part of my life, always keen in mechanical engineering, and this is where Terry and I's path crossed.
You met. We'll talk about that. Your parents.
My parents.
Your parents, I know you come from a loving, family background. Just talk about your parents and more or less growing up with them and your siblings.
Well, there isn't much on the side of siblings. I just have one sibling, and that's a sister, younger than me. Then my parents, look, I also had the privilege of growing around my grandparents.
Yes.
So maternally, born and bred in Gumbo. On the paternal side, my father came from a village in Iduja called Kocha, and that's where my father hailed from. And he then came through to Gumbo because there were businesses there, and then he started running a business with my mother and my grandfather and my grandmother. So I had the privilege of growing up with a balanced family, loved dearly, being the only son in the family. And from that, I think I had a bit of, I wouldn't say a softer life, but I had a very rigid Christian family.
Let's call it conservative.
Yeah, on the conservative,
Yes.
on the conservative side.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what is black, what is white. It was never in between. You still had to do the chores that you needed to do. Of course, with the exception of heavy rains and thunderous storms, you are never allowed to be out at that point in time. A lot of values in terms of one must respect himself and therefore respect others. And also having the privilege of having someone who, the spare the rod, spoil the child. So I got a few of those, which were warranted to to a large degree, but more so, I think the structure of my family is what has helped me in life, and knowing that you must take responsibility for your actions and when it matters the most. And that's how I grew up. They were loving, they were caring, they were quite fun to be around. And what you see today is a direct result of their inputs in life.
Quality life out of you. They gave you more or less a baton to run with.
Absolutely.
To finish the race.
Absolutely.
They started earlier on in their lives.
And I think when you're a child, you don't see that. Your mind is so clustered with playing, having fun, going out there with friends, and running away from the responsibilities of manhood, which will later on apply in your life.
Any particular moment where you felt, hey, these parents, because I'm the only boy, I'm only child, they're too hard, and too difficult to please, and you get more or less, the shambok, or you get a stick. Well, just give us more or less a lowdown those moments where you felt, I'm going to run away from this home, it's greener on the other side.
I think when I grew up, you are insulated from the noise of the world. Your parents are your parents. They've got the God-given right to discipline you where it matters the most. There was no form of any abuse of some sort. I think as a kid, I was just as naughty as other kids, where you find yourself being reprimanded to go to a certain area, and some of your friends are going there, and then you end up going there, and then you
Like
come
swimming in the river, you're not supposed to
100%.
swim. Yeah, to swim there.
100%. I was never a good swimmer as a kid, and I wouldn't say I'm a good swimmer even now, but I can swim. But I would say I'm a good driver, to say that it's a good racing driver for the love of it. But you get your lashes for that, and then you become very naughty. You do things to other kids. You take their food, you give it to other people. You say it was excess food for you. People come to their lunch tins. There's no food. You take some of their bread. You sell them to other people. I used to get a hiding for those things. And at the end of the day, I thought, okay, well, I'm getting a hiding now. It's warranted because I was told not to do that, and I ended up doing it. But there comes a time in life where you realize, I've got plenty of those workings. I must rather stay away from them.
You guys ran, your parents, like you said, they ran a shop.
Yeah.
You became a shopkeeper at an early age. You were able to count money, and also, weigh. Those days, that most probably you're weighing a lot of things.
Yeah. You're weighing your silver.
Your silver.
Yeah,
yes.
You put it in its money bags, the coins. We still had 5 cents, 1 cent in those days. And I think your 2 rand was paper money, 5 rand was paper money, and not coins at the time. So you definitely work your shifts, particularly weekend. You didn't really have a weekend. You would be ringing the till all the time, and your friends would be playing outside there. But all that, there was a plan that you never know. In God's good time, later on in life, I didn't know that I'd also be running a business where I still have to count stock, by the way, and which is the most difficult part. Hideous. It's tedious, and it's monotonous because it's got to be done every day and sometimes every month. So that on its own were the disciplines that were structured at a very young age.
Sure. What life, experience did you get out of that exercise?
Discipline.
Financial discipline, and more or less discipline in totality.
Discipline in totality, because the shop has got to open at 7. You've got to be there. You've counted the float, and the business must be humming from 7 to 5 or to 6 o'clock, depending. At a certain time, you take a bit of a break. You've got to be counting certain elements of the business in terms of stocks. You've got to be going to the banks. There were still banks in Gumbo at the time. You go across the road to go and change money for coins so that you've got the right balance of float within the tills. And that itself, later on in life, I'm still dealing with that now, which I didn't deal with it when I was at high school and tertiary. Basically because I had to study but come back home and still help my parents with the business.
Come back to motorsport. You've got a name. Is it your parents that gave you the name, or your friends, or maybe the motorsport community? Bacho Bonke.
Yeah, threefold.
Where did you get that name, Bacho Bonke?
So Bacho Bonke was from my grandfather, paternally. And then the other name is Zandisile, which is from my grandfather maternally. So that's the man I grew up with most of the time. And the skill set of discipline and being meticulous and count thoroughly before you go to things and be involved in things and see what the outcome is going to be, and then weigh that risk. It came from that side. And then, because we had a butchery, we used to bribe for the customers, and the name Bachobonga. Then my friends started calling me Tschops.
Just to shorten the word, because Bachobonga is a long
It's a
one.
very long one.
So that's when the name Tschops came from.
That's correct.
From Bachobonga.
That's correct.
Now I understand.
Yes.
Most probably everybody will understand exactly where does Tschops come from.
Yes,
So it comes from Bachobonga.
but Terry changed the spelling.
I see.
Terry changed
Very
the spelling.
funny. It looks Chinese.
Yeah, Terry changed the spelling. There was an Audi motorsport manager, Choppel Klaus, and he thought he must sort of mirror it towards Choppel Klaus. So back then it was T. It was a T with a C, TSCHOPS. Terry added the S into it, so it did to TSCHOPS, and that's how that one sort of took the forefront in motorsport. It's easy to pronounce. As Marut says, the commentator saying Bacho Bonke, some of them couldn't even pronounce it well. So it is going to be very.
They'll ask you, can you please spell it? And it becomes another cumbersome
Yes,
exercise.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's how it came about.
Now I know where does it come from.
Yeah.
I'm kind of elated because it comes from the name that you got from your paternal grandparents.
Yes. Yeah.
Are they still alive? All of these that we're talking about?
Well,
Your grandfather,
they're all
your
passed on.
Your mother,
They're
your
all-
father.
They all passed on. I'm only left with my mother.
Oh man,
Yeah.
what's her name?
Aging along gracefully. Poliswa Lindelo Sipuka.
Oh
Yes.
yes.
Very, very, very dear lady.
Are you mama's boy?
I don't know.
Yeah,
But-
because boys are closer to their moms.
That's what people say.
Yeah.
But I am extremely close to my mother.
I would say myself, a mama's boy.
Yeah.
I
Well,
was closer to my mom. Yeah,
yeah.
closest.
Sometimes I think we admit it and sometimes we don't admit it. I think depending on the circumstances, I think our wives tend to say, yo, mthanda mama.
You mean you tell
Yeah,
mama?
I don't know who are you to love, but if as it is,
Yeah,
I would say I'm my mother's child.
Yeah.
I love my mother very dearly, and there's not much that I would not do for her.
oh,
Yeah, is my only parent that's left, and I appreciate the years that God has granted me with him.
thank you.
Yeah,
Terry Moss,
yeah,
out of the blue, rural boy,
yeah.
running bare feet, chasing cows and goats. Never thought of driving him in the motorsport, in a community. How did it come about?
It's amazing how it came about. He still lives. There's a family relative, Vusi Majaja, worked for one of the petroleum brands back then, and his friends happened to be Terry's friends. And there's a restaurant in Newton Park back at the day called Teveli's. They met there, unbeknown that they would be talking about motorsport. Then Vusi Majaja, this family relative of ours, asked Terry, there's a lot of transformation taking place in different sports. How about motorsport? Terry said, look, he thinks people have been trying enough, but the guys break halfway down the straight. They don't really commit all the way. And it becomes a bit daunting and scary for them. So they've never really found a guy who's really committed all out. I think Bob McBain at the time was racing for Nissan, Nissan South Africa. And then Vusi said, I've got a nephew back at home. I think you must give him a try. He made the mistake of giving Vusi his number, and Vusi gave me his number. Then I think I was calling Terry 4, 5, 6 times a day till he got so fed up. At some point he says, listen, don't call me. I will call you.
I will call you. Just
I
like
said,
Madiba.
Yeah.
Madiba said, don't call me, I'll call you.
And then he made the mistake of not calling me. Then I called him. I don't think the cell phones at the time allowed you to block somebody.
No.
I don't think they
were
did.
not,
they were not so sophisticated.
Yeah.
So I would phone him during the day, I would phone him in the morning, I would phone him at night, until he said, listen, I'm going to be very upset now if you call me. I said, okay, sir, no problem. So
You're stalking me.
Yeah, so I didn't call him, I think, for 3 days. On the 4th day, I called him 5 times.
Yeah.
He picked up the phone and he said he was going to go to East London. So if I was serious about motorsport, I must go to East London. Unbeknown to him, at the time I was at the technical college in East London College doing my mechanical engineering. And you see how these things sort of fit together for the good purposes of life.
As faith.
Yeah, and in a huge way. So this guy was sort of a role model in motorsport in South Africa. I then went to the racetrack with my grandfather, who supported this, but my mother was not so much supportive because
dangerous sport.
Very, very dangerous, and very dangerous to my mother because my father passed on through a car accident.
My God!
So he didn't want to see this repetition, especially forced. It's a forced repetition now.
Anything to do
with the car.
With the car.
No, it was trauma for my mom. Then Terry, I don't think he thought I was gonna come, but I phoned him and I said, I'm here. He says, where are you? I said, I'm across the track. I said, I'm gonna wave my arm so that you can see me. So I waved my arm, and then he waved his arm across the track. Well, then he took me to the car, what it looked like, what was this, the different suspension points, and where they set camber, where they set caster, all those things. And at that time, this is what I was learning at the technical school for mechanical engineering. Then he said, I think you must stay and then watch the race. After we've finished our heat, come back and tell me if you're interested in motorsport, then we'll take it from there. So I do think he thought I was not going to be interested. Because if you watch it for the first time live, you can see these are all maniacs. Nobody's
crazy people.
Very crazy. When I mean crazy, there are 4 cars abreast, side by side. Mirrors are falling off. It sounds like the ground is shaking, going into one corner.
Are going upside down, rolling. 100%.
And nobody stops. Nobody stops. They just
all of them are customized cars.
Yes.
Very expensive, to say the least.
And they do the deed quite well.
Smash them to pieces.
Yeah, built for purpose.
Yeah.
So they went through Potters. I must tell you, on that first 2-3 laps, I was asking myself, really, do I really need this? Because this is now really is dangerous. I remember my mother said he had nausea that whole time, just watching that thing. And then my grandfather turned around and he said, are you still serious?
You've got this, my boy.
Go for it. Are you serious? I said, I think I am. He says, well, I'll support you. We went for it. I got to Terry and I said, Terry, here I am. I think I'm going to give it a try. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing mechanical engineering. He says, how far from your practical, your internship? I said, well, it would be nice to have one. He organized it with Volkswagen Motorsport at the time. I went to Volkswagen. I started sweeping floors. Draining oils, taking oil to the oil pans, because when you drained oil, there was an oil pan, and you needed to dump it into an oil pan for storage and for purposes of
And
of
recycling.
environment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was changing tires. I was doing all the odd jobs, which I started questioning
driving.
myself. No, not driving. Started questioning myself. What
You're
am I here to
testing your
do?
mentality.
I worked there, and obviously his mechanic was a guy by the name Sada, and a very, very good guy. Was quite kind, and everybody else was a bit rough there, you know. It's a rough environment,
Yeah.
because it's something else. Then I moved on from there. On the last day, we were preparing a Polo Cup car for Clive Rice, who was going to be the guest in one racing event. So Terry and I then, with Klaus, everybody went to the track to check if the car was healthy and sound and ready for racing. Then there was a development Golf that was parked at the circuit. So Terry put me in this car. He says, "This is where you turn, this is where you accelerate."
Low.
Yeah,
Very low.
Yeah. All the bells and whistles
Everything is
of
low.
a racing car.
Racing car, yeah.
But I could relate to why he was saying people braked halfway down the straight.
Yeah.
Because remember, a racing car is not insulated.
Yeah.
You get to feel the vibrations, the
Everything.
bumps, the noise,
Squeaking.
and it's quite noisy.
Yeah, squeaking.
It's quite noisy. So I think the difference was you could go into an area called braking area that will have 100 meters, 150, 150 meters.
Yeah.
The braver drivers, depending on what caliber of a car is, they'll brake at 50 meters, they'll brake at 70 meters and 80 meters. So not everyone's got the skill and the heart to brake that late, because if you brake too late, you're going to go off the circuit and you're going to hit a wall,
Yeah.
or you're going to hit
Yeah.
a tire barrier.
Yeah.
So when he showed me where to brake, I did exactly what he asked me to do. And I was just getting faster and faster and faster. And I didn't know. I just was enjoying driving this racing car. And I thought, even if it could end here, I could say, well, I did have the opportunity to race a car. Then he said, guys, I think this guy can drive.
He can
Everybody
drive.
said, no, Terry, you must be dreaming.
Yeah.
He's just driven a much slower car than this. Why do you put him? He says, well, I'll take the risk. Come. He put me into the Polo Cup car.
Wow.
Lap after lap, I was just getting faster and faster and faster. And that's where he made up his mind. And it shocked everybody. Yeah, it shocked everybody, you know. Back in the Transkei, you're riding horses, you're on horseback, you're on donkey backs, you're all on a lot of things.
On donkey cart and all that
Yes.
stuff. Yeah.
So the privilege,
You are used to the rocking chair.
100%.
You are used to the bumpy environment,
Everything. You name
Everything.
it. Dusty,
dusty and everything else, but stay focused.
Yes,
You stay focused regardless of what is happening around you.
correct. And then from there, rest was history. Terry found a sponsor that was with Engine Petroleum at the time. And then the rest was history. We just kept going. We won championships. We went abroad. We did the first 25-hour endurance race. And man, he became the father. He became the father figure. You know, I learned quite a lot from him. Of course, on top of what already had been sort of drummed in my brain by my parents and anchored, to always be responsible, to always show up on the moment when you need to show up, and do the things with the best of your ability, holding your head up straight. But more importantly, just focus at the task at hand.
Let's go back to your mother. Now we are a motorsport racing driver.
Yeah.
What did your mother say? I sent you to school to do mechanical engineering. You come back with a certificate, but also with a steering wheel. You say, what did your mother say? You know, yeah,
Look,
I'm going to die. You know, I'm going to have a heart attack.
so there were two things. Terry at some stage met with both my parents, which was my grandfather and mother at the time, and he assured them about the safety aspect of the cars. But more importantly, I think because you know how it happens in the hierarchy of discipline and respect is that my mother had to also respect what my grandfather was echoing. But equally, my mother had to understand that this is now a career path that's been chosen. This is the path now that's been chosen.
That's the path.
So ideally, he wanted me to be a lawyer, and I could never understand why I'm going to sit behind a desk, read books, go to court, argue with this guy. He's done something wrong, but you've got to prove he's probably technically not done something wrong. And I felt, it's not for me. So she envisaged me wearing a suit, a tie, and they never wanted me to do mechanical engineering. Yes, and she thought if I was not going to do that, I was going to be a doctor. And she, and I thought to myself, because I think mechanical engineering is associated with oil being dirty,
greasy,
that's what it is.
Stuff.
Yes,
yeah.
So he never envisaged that for me, and she said it, and I said, Mom, I understand and I respect that, but I think here I've got something that I've got much passion for, and I'll put.
My intuition says this is the one
100%
path I'm going to take.
So we took a bet. I said, do me a favor. I've done my mechanical engineering now. Passed it in flying colors. If motorsport doesn't work for me in 2 years, I'll do my best to fulfill your dream.
Yeah.
And hopefully to work. So I said to Terry, we've got to push this thing now.
Otherwise,
I'm going to go back home. I've got no choice here. We've got to make sure this thing works. So, because Terry had been in it for years, he knew what was required. He learned what my strengths were, what my weaknesses, and we sharpened those areas of weakness.
Took them here
and there. And man, I tell you, we went for our first race in Cape Town, and strangely, we were teamed up with cars of in the same standard. So they were all 2 liters, and some of there was a bigger class with faster cars.
And established drivers.
100%. Then remember, what's shocking is that when you're the only man of color or black man, it's daunting. It's scary for you. You're seeing all these white faces. You're the only black face, And then we went into
and nobody thinks you can do it.
No. That
you're not even.
That nobody thought of. I still remember we left here about 4 a.m. We were towing with the bakkie that Terry had. We came from Greenbushes in his farm there. We went to Cape Town. We arrived. We did documentation. We tested, and in testing we were not really there, but we were there in our class. But the problem is when you don't understand it quite clearly, there are many cars. So I could never understand why are all these cars going past. Meanwhile, that was the faster class. Then it rained, and then Terry was standing with an umbrella on the other side of the track, and he used the sign language on where we must get to the apex, and I knew exactly what he was saying. So we'd get to the apex. And unbeknown to me, we became faster and faster and faster. Then we won our class, which was nice. Terry said, the rest of the day we're going to enter you with the faster cars. Then I was standing on the grid. We were 17th on the grid. Sure. But we had won our class. 17th on the grid, then we started 17th, and then we pulled through. Then it started pouring.
Sure, cats and dogs.
Started pouring. And then I could just remember him pointing the apexes and where you must go, where you must stop. And then I had the feel of the car. Then we came out and we won the race. What a joyful moment.
What a relief.
What a joyful moment.
Sure.
Then there was no turning back now because we committed.
Yeah.
But this was just the beginning.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished for that moment, but this was just the
The
beginning.
beginning.
The heavy load was still coming, because then now we went and entered into the national championships, and boy oh boy, this was hard work now.
Were you expected to exceed expectations again?
And the thing is, when you come from that dose of a high,
Yeah.
you never want to touch the low. You always want the high. And it hurts when you don't win, and you got to dig deep. But you pay attention, you try and understand where you're weak, you try and get out on the track and see what the other faster drivers are doing that you're not doing, and you learn from that. And I think really I was privileged and fortunate to have good mechanics at the time that could work a car properly, and we could discuss after a session what was wrong, what was right. And Terry was very instrumental in that, because he knew exactly from his experience what we needed to change with the car. He used to go out and sit on the side of the circuit and see how the car behaves in certain parts of the circuit. And he could listen to it and he'd say, "Tschops, you need to be flat out there. You can't back off." And you'd think, but this guy is not really serious. Because in this corner, you're going to be doing 200 Ks and he's sitting there in the pits and he doesn't know what's going to happen at 200 Ks. Yeah, you're going to roll. You're going to hurt yourself.
The car.
But here's what's strange, was that if you listened carefully to what he was saying and you applied it, it just worked.
It made sense.
It made sense after you tried and tested it and nothing
Exactly.
happened. Right.
Yeah.
Then you learn to listen now that, okay, if he says this, it's experience, try it, and it will work. The national championships were very, very difficult. We were not qualifying where we were. So we used 6 months in those national championships, trying very hard, and we were sharpening our pencil all the time, sharpening the pencil all the time. And then 2002 came along, first championship.
So let's talk about this one. This is 2002.
This is 2002.
This is you and Terry.
This is the first championship.
Inseparable.
It blew everybody's mind. Blew my mind.
Indispensable partnership
100%.
with Terry.
He poured all he had, and I did the same. Because remember,
Against all odds.
you are on your own there. There's nobody that's going to help you. Nobody's going to slow down and break the car so that you can go and win.
I just want the camera to focus on this trophy. This is two, and it's not even number 2.
No,
nobody remembers number 2.
No,
Let's show.
No, they
It's
don't.
number 1,
yeah,
and it's VW there. It's engine on top.
yeah.
Where's your name?
Those were the companies
you.
that had faith and put their
They
trust
gave
in
you-
us,
Yeah.
and it all turned out to be.
So
to
you
be
became
quite
the
well.
South African.
First
the-
black
first
motorsport
black-
sport national champion.
Just repeat it again.
South Africa's first black national motorsport champion.
Bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Bravo. Bravo. And no wonder, I when we invited you, we don't invite. Yes, a lot of people have done so many things,
Yeah.
but we invite legends like you.
Thank you.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm proud of your first.
Thank you.
The first is always,
Yeah.
stays there. Whether it's your first girlfriend or your first wife,
Yeah.
this is, is the one.
It's a moment to treasure.
This is a fertile platform
Absolutely.
for many things that came after this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This was that was where the foundation of what I became, who I became in motorsport was built. It was on this championship of 2003.
And yeah.
It was just mind-boggling. So we did 2000, and in fact, to be quite honest, to be precise, the first championship was 2002. The second championship was 2003. So this is just one of many trophies that are lying around at home, and memorable moments, because both championships were amongst the top drivers in that formula. People that had been had won world championships. Derek Irving, Ian Pepper, Basilman. These were all cutting champions. To win against the best of the best requires you to dig so much out of you.
Nationally.
Nationally.
It's not a provincial.
No.
It's national.
No. If I could take somebody and pass on the baton to him at the time, nobody would understand how much you've had to dig. Remember, I was the only man of color at that high level. There was Philip Kekane, there was Gugu Zulu. But the platform in which I was in had the best of the best, and the cars were so identical. It was skill, talent, and the man that was prepared to do more than the other man to get to the top.
Grit and gut.
100%. And defining moments where we were, I wouldn't say extraordinary, but we were very good in the wet. So other drivers went partying and other drivers were sleeping. When it rained, we were testing in the rain, just to understand the limits of the car and the limits of the driver. And more often than not, I mean, it was going to rain, the car was the same, and
slippery slopes.
Slippery. And I then automatically started getting the natural feel of where the grip level is, and it was great. And we won championships, we won races, and I can tell you the story. If there were 13 races that we did that particular year, 11 races out of the 12 races, our car was stripped to check if was it legal.
Yeah, any advantage.
100%. And every time they went that direction, the car was
There's a lot
legal.
of scrutiny.
100%.
Because I see in Formula One also, there's a lot of scrutiny.
Yeah.
You know, see whether you didn't put in anything that will give you an advantage.
Yeah, it also became a bit silly to some point, because if other people, some of the guys did win, their cars were never stripped. But maybe from number 2, number 3, they would strip. Or they would strip number 5. But every time we won, the car had to be stripped. And I can understand. I never used to make a fuss about it. It got to a point where I also, after Park for me, when we won a race, I'd ask, do you want me to drive it to the other side for you guys to strip it?
Yeah, invite them.
Yes,
because
and I can understand. I normally say, I really, really understand. Here's a rural boy who's never done go-karts, went straight into a racing car, and was beating people
who started
driving
go-karts.
Yeah. So I then have to make room in my heart to say, I understand where they come from. It's a bit unfair, but it's okay. We'll live with it.
Let sleeping dogs lie.
And we'll carry on.
Carry on.
It doesn't matter as long as we're doing things above board, and it could never. And then later on in life, because we were winning so much, they invented something that was called, if the top 6 cars qualify, the top qualified cars, you had to pull your starting position out of what they'd created, which was sort of a long drop toilet, if you want to put it that way. It was something that was funny. So there were 6 strings there. You had to pull 6 strings. You had to pull 1 string off the 6. So fair enough, you'd qualify on a pole to start at the top, and you pull number 6, and then you start 6.
Start 6 after
all that hard work. We had a few of those, and we carved our way to the front, because the first trick was the right start. The second trick was extraordinary commitment into 10-1.
Yeah.
Extraordinary commitment into 10-1. That first corner. You are either putting 2 wheels on the grass to get yourself in there, and then everybody would know you're not playing. You're here to do something. And then the rest was how you could pace the car over the 8 laps, how you used or managed your tires over the 8 laps. And that was always the trick.
Sure.
And then it got to a time where we were just pulling string one, string one, string one, string one. They changed it. They said, well, let's turn back the formula and say we're going to do what we refer to as super pole. And super pole only meant you had one lap. One lap. But that super pole didn't work. It worked for us. We were faster in super pole and everybody was rolling cars. So the top four guys ended up rolling cars. It actually became dangerous because your tires were not warm enough.
Yeah.
But we were used to a car that was slipping and sliding, and that's what gave us that advantage.
Yeah.
But throughout that, big thanks to my family. I think my mother's knees were overworked more than anybody else when it comes
the
prayers, the non-stop.
Prayers, non-stop prayers.
She would wake me. She would wake me up at 12 midnight.
Let's pray.
And traveling says, "I think we need to pray." And I got used to it. For every race we go, we used to,
By
keep
the grace
us in
of
their
God,
prayers. Yeah, because you could be in another world in that sport, and sometimes people don't understand it.
Dangerous
it's as good and dangerous as it can be.
Yeah.
Because
They call it. Some people call you hell drivers. The way you drive the cars,
no.
it's
Look, it's
unbelievable.
It's all in. Or Terry used to say, you can't be half pregnant. Yeah, you're either pregnant or not pregnant. So you knew you got to give it your all, and at the time you wanted to make a career out of it, and then I think through God's grace, that's why we also had opportunities to be called overseas to come and to participate in the 25-hour endurance races.
That's
Taxing to the
another
body.
one.
Taxing to the
Is
body
it
and
Le
very
Mans?
heavy. No, we did Belgium, Spa.
Spa.
Spa-Francorchamps.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's where he won one of his races. I think there he was driving an Audi, a Quattro.
I believe he's a hero there.
Very, very much so. So an Audi had never won at Spa. And just a short one there. I think Fisichella, which was a Formula One driver, was ahead of him coming through a very long sweep before the bus stop. And Terry was on 6th gear there, flat out. And he touched Fisichella, and Fisichella went flying into the Armco because they just couldn't believe how fast he was there.
Sure.
And that's what made the difference. So I always say, we see all the European drivers, and big respect to them. They grow up in those fields. But South Africans have got so much grit, and you won't believe. I mean, look at the Van der Linde brothers now. They're doing quite well.
Yeah, very well.
And it's guys that, they came in, I think, straight after I was leaving the formula. But, I mean, South Africans are very, very, very good at what they do when they're given a chance. Yeah. And that's why we could go overseas. We could qualify on pole, not even knowing we're on pole. We could drive at night. I'll tell you the story about Belgium driving the first 25-hour endurance race. We'll bring that maybe later on.
No, let's talk about it. Let's talk about, because it's quite an interesting thing, because those days it was very popular. Popular than Formula One. There's endurance race.
Yes.
There's 24 hours.
Le Mans, yes.
Yeah, Le Mans.
Yes.
It used to be in the front pages and of the newspapers. Everybody will talk about it.
Absolutely.
Although we did have, the Formula One.
I mean, Formula One. I mean, if we go back in history, a South African won a Formula One race, which was Jody Scheckter, born and bred in East London.
Yeah.
So you take the likes of Cyril van der Merwe, they won Daytona. So South Africans have always been in the mix of things, strong-willed, and they could deliver when the moment counts. So. Going to Spa, Terry phones me and he says, we're going to Spa. I said, Belgium? He says, yeah, we're going to Belgium. I said, what are we doing there? He says, well, you're going to race the Beetle Fan Cup. We fly off to Belgium. We land. I think we went.
Was it your first time?
First time going overseas.
Oh, your mother's prayers.
Yeah, so.
My child is flying.
So.
He's going overseas.
Quite daunting exercise, sitting a plane 32,000 feet. These days, that's what you realize, that, you know, some things are miraculous for certain people.
Yeah.
These things are miraculous for when you've never grown in that environment and space. So we're sitting in Heathrow, and I think, are these planes racing or what? You know,
The hustle and bustle.
yes, so
the
they've
others
got to,
are landing,
they're
the others
taking off.
Yeah.
So it was quite
Yeah.
interesting to see. That was the first thing I experienced when we landed in Europe. And then we got to Belgium. Then you walk the track to see your various corners, where the curbs are, what to do, what not to do. And then you realize, okay, I can skip this bump, and this is how far it's going to throw the car. So we walk it, and then here's the funny part. I'm an old overalls coming from South Africa, but they were still within their limits. You know, in Europe, they check your overalls because they've got expiry dates on them, including your helmets.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, for safety.
Yeah, everything is done.
Yeah, safety.
I mean, it's done
Yeah.
thorough. It's done thorough. There are no shortcuts. But it's also a money-making scheme, because those things don't really, I mean, if they're not exposed to burn, you can't take an overall when you're involved in an accident and the car had gone into flames and part of it was damaged, and still race with that overall. But I mean, it is what it is. It's part and parcel of the sport. That's the rules of the sport. Then, come the Saturday, the guys are qualifying. So we're a bit jet-lagged, got into the car, and Terry said, you know, this is now a very different car to what you're used to. It's radial tires, it's no more slicks, the grip level is not going to be there, but try and find your limits. Don't be in a hurry. We are guests here. The last thing we want to do is crash the car.
Yeah.
So I got into the car, we did what we needed to do, and I came back and I said, is there much setup that we could do on this car? So unbeknown to them, he changed the camber of the car.
Yeah.
Then it was my turn to go out. And we went out, qualified on pole. I didn't even know that I was on pole. Got out of the car, and he said, do you know what has happened now? I said, no. He says, you're on pole. I said, wow, jeez, I can't believe that. So does that mean we're going to start the race? He says, maybe not. Remember, we're guests. So we went to the guys and we asked, can we start the race? The guy said, no, you're the guest. You can't start the race.
See?
Yeah.
Yeah, we start.
Go back in the queue.
Good.
So I went back into the queue. Nightfall. So 3:30 in the morning. I think it was my turn now.
That's
to drive.
24 hours
Yeah.
we're talking about.
25.
Yeah. 25.
This is the first 25, yeah. First 25 in the Beetle Fun Cup. Then the guy said, got to call the South African guy.
3 o'clock.
Yeah, 3 o'clock. So the irony was I was changing in the changing rooms first.
Yeah.
Then everybody was laughing there. They had a good laugh.
Yeah.
And the other one asked, who's this? Then the other guy said, Jaiji Mavoy. So Jaiji Mavoy was the guy who was friends with Terry, who actually organized the drive for me to drive in the Fun Cup. He was very good friends with Terry. I think in the Belgium club, Terry was the man, because he made the Audi win there.
Yes.
So it was a big laughter, because we must remember I was a big...
They didn't even know your name.
No.
know.
What is Tschops, you know?
What is Tschops?
So the irony of it was, Terry was sitting there and he said, Chopper, you got to come in. It's your turn. Come. So we were rushing out of the transporter, just put on my racing shoes, because you're relaxed, but you got so much anxiety.
Yeah.
Because it's getting darker and you don't know how much you're going to see. You're afraid to spin the car. And Belgium is a beautiful circuit because it runs through a forest. And there are certain parts of the track that change. It's slippery. Yeah. It rains in certain parts of the track, and it doesn't rain in certain parts of the track.
Sure.
So when I got into the car, they had taken the lights, the spotlights because the car had been involved in a bump and then the spotlights broke. So they put on other spotlights, connected one, forgot to connect the other.
So you had a one-eye giant.
One-eye giant. Got into the car, got out of the pits. So Terry says, can you see? I said, well, I'll use the guys in front of me to watch. You know, I'll use them as my light.
Yeah.
But the lighting was not good. But they're bright. You know, I could drive with them. The moral of the story there, I want to say, people must not forget their early beginnings.
Yeah.
And I'll relate
Yeah.
to that, which
Yeah.
comes into play here. So I soon realized that, we're at the back here. I think we were 18th or 19th. So I'm going faster and faster and faster with the slide. So in certain parts of the circuit, I would slow down and pretend the light is off and on and off, because it had something to do with the current. It was, you could hear when you put on the spotlights, it sucks the current. The car becomes a little bit slower. Yeah. And I just cut onto the grass and leaned against the guys all the time. So they would come into this corner while everybody slows down, and just cut the corner, lean on them, hang on next to them, and they would keep on falling off. And everybody thought it was slippery there, so the radios are coming on. Terry says, Chopper, what's going on? Everybody's yelling here, Nolito, Nolito. Yeah, Nolito, Nolito, you are going to crash.
Yeah.
We are all trying to understand what Nolito means. We don't know, because everybody is saying Nolito, Nolito.
Nolito.
Because you got one light on the car.
You're causing havoc there.
Yeah, so Terry says, Nolito. The guy says, yeah, Nolito, Nolito. The Christ, the car. So there's a bit of French and all these other guys there. Ultimately, what the guys were saying, they were saying, no lights.
No lights.
No lights. You're going to crash. So Terry responds. He says, oh, Nolito, Nolito. Leave him. Where he comes from, Nolito, Nolito.
From the rural village, from the villages of the Transkei.
So back then as a kid, you to drive in the rural village with no lights.
Yeah.
So... And you could see, you use the front car to actually drive with.
Yeah.
If that car in front has got lights, you just follow the front car.
Exactly.
A bit risky, but in that racing world, everything is following the same direction and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Great joy. We came from 18th right down to 3rd, and my 3-hour stint was finished, and I had to hand over the car.
Oh,
So,
the guest.
yeah, the guest was
The
hand
guest.
over, yeah. Because you were only allowed to do 3 hours.
Yeah.
And in enduro races, that's a double stint where you could do 3 hours and then you got to hand over to your teammate. Brilliant outing. We all shouted for joy. We were quite happy. It was a very successful trip. Thanks to Terry, thanks to VW at the time, because they were the sponsor. And they stood out as much as they could in my life, and I'm very grateful to have had those opportunities. Engine Petroleum, on the other end, were the first big sponsor that came into my racing career.
Oh, wow.
So I would say 80% of my racing career had been propelled by that company. And we did well, and we, in many platforms, I salute them, because there was no other company that was prepared to take that risk on a man of color. Because that goes a very long way. Anybody who's going to do a return on investment, he says, look, can this guy really pedal a car?
Yeah.
No, we're going to spend more time panel beating the car than the car being on the track.
Gratitude is the father of all the virtues. I know you are grateful for what you've done. Having learned the hard way how to drive Nolito, Nolito.
Yeah.
Nolito. Then yourself, Kekana, Letlapa, Kolile Letlaka, and
it was myself, Philip Kekane,
yes.
and Kolile Letlaka.
Let's talk about this trophy now.
Yeah.
Can you just take the water there so that the camera can zoom in on that one?
Yeah, this is quite a.
This is a milestone also.
It's also a milestone. It's also a milestone. Look, every championship has got its fair share of it's got its fair share of how it resonates in your heart, and a bit of range of emotions that come with it. Because I can tell you now, it's not easy. People see you see the joy and the laughter behind, but behind the scenes has a lot of digging that you got to do with yourself, really behind the people, to understand you can do it, and everybody else must believe they can really support you 110%, and you will give them 120% back. And that's how, unfortunately, this game is played. So Xolile and I come way back. We Transkei boys.
Yeah. Abakaya.
Yeah.
Umkhaya wami,
So
umkhaya wami.
yes. So later on in life, in his virtues, with his business success, he wanted to get into motorsport. And I came in a little bit later in his life where he was in motorsport already, but he had never fine-tuned the winning element into it. Then he asked me to join him for a race in East London. This is now the first time I was going to be driving a Lamborghini Huracan.
Wow.
It's a saloon car. It's a saloon car. It's fast. It's mind-bogglingly fast for a road car.
Handsome car.
Yeah, beautiful cars. And then we went to East London to do a 3-hour. I arrived. We qualified up there, and he was expecting me to lead, and I did, which I did very well. We were three, because it's all about strategy. When to pit, when to try and save fuel, when to really attack. So we went there, and there were guys that were faster, obviously, than us, and we did the best we could. And then it so happened that towards the end, I was leading by 3 laps. I was ahead by 3 laps. Then I radioed in. I said, guys, we've got to give the car to Xolile. The engineers felt it's very risky because he hasn't had that experience, but he can drive. So I said, guys, the guy owns the car. Might as well give it to him to put the car over the line. So they said, we don't believe. I said, well, whether you believe it or not, I'm coming in. We are agreeing, give the order the car to take the car over the line. And it's because the other guys were catching up. We came in, gave Xolile the car, and the car was working. So I took the headphones and I was trying to talk him through being calm, because it's frightening at the end, because now what he didn't want, for him, he wanted the team to win. It was not about him. He wanted the team to win, but I first thought it would be about him, because he's put in this investment in this car, and he has got to feel how it feels to win.
Yeah.
Got in, and right at the end, the car started misfiring. I said, well, short shift the car. And then he short shifted the car. And right at the end, he put it over the line and we won.
Wow.
Which was very great for him. And that gave him the buzz to go on. So when we had the 9-hour.
Is that Kailami?
That's Kailami. We had the 9-hour 2022. He said, I would like to have a driver of drivers of color. So the first person that came to mind from my end was Philip Kekana. So I said, X-Men, I think you must go for Philip Kekana. He said, okay, do you trust him? I said, yeah, he's fair, he's decent, he'll drive the car, can I show you? But then he had to do his homework. And the other guy said, no ways. You can't give this guy a fast car and he's never driven it. Then he called me back. He said, hey, brah, I'm not too sure, man. I mean, this already we're ranking up expenses here, and I don't think Philip is going to be able to handle the car. I said, X, please trust me on this. Philip is a well-seasoned driver. He could tell you, if you tell him this is how you must drive it, that's how he'll drive it. He's not going to take extraordinary chances or whatever the case may be, and I'll take the extraordinary chances. If he falls behind, we will pick it up. Then, in that process, we were lined up on the grid. It was such a much range of emotions at the time, because here we are the three black drivers standing on the grid amongst the European crowds. It's not that sometimes you feel inferior, but you have to pinch yourself and ask yourself, well, you're competing amongst the best of the best in the world, and here you are. This doesn't ordinarily happen for a black child. You got to grab the moment. You got to make it work, because the world is watching.
You are an inspiration to so many. Although you don't know it, but you are, in truth and correct, you are an inspiration.
Thank you.
Trailblazer that has made us proud in so many ways.
Yeah.
Legendary story. It's
Thank
always
you.
a pleasure talking
Yeah.
to you, Tschops.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very
We have this iconic flag, South African flag, where you can see the signatures of people who have been here. Now it's your turn. Yeah.
to sign the
To
iconic
sign
flag.
anywhere you like. That signature for yours will sit here, and then one day we'll hang this flag and said, Tschops Sipuka was here,
Yeah,
and he told us so many good things,
it's an absolute
and then
pleasure.
has been an inspiration to so many.
Thank you ever so
Thank you
much.
very much again. And
Thank you.